everybody. Welcome to Summer Farms, where we do a some of this and a some of that. I'm Heather, and today we're going to be talking about nutrition, but we're going to be thinking about nutrition outside the box. So, originally, I said I was going to video me having this talk with our group, but I decided just to do it like this because with all the kids running around and stuff like that, it wouldn't make for a good video. So, we're going to do it this way. Um, First, a little bit about myself because I do not consider myself a professional in this field, nor do I consider myself any kind of an expert or anything like that. In fact, putting this together, it's amazing how much I actually forgot because I do, however, have my my bachelor's degree in nutrition science. And a lot of that comes from that. However, more importantly, it comes from experience, my knowledge in this subject. A long time ago, I took a lifestyles change, and it happened a little bit before I even went to college. But especially when I went to college, and especially after taking this one course called Food Politics, wow, that completely just changed my whole perspective on nutrition. And from there forward, I made my own change for the better. So that's a huge story for a whole nother time. So let's get started. When I first started putting this together, I went with just the basics, stages of life and, each nutritional requirements for those stages and, what foods contain higher levels of the essential vitamins and minerals that you really do need. And I did compile a handout for that just to kind of get you started. But as I was doing all that, I felt like all that stuff is more common knowledge, or at the very least, it's very easy information that you can find. Google it or DuckDuckGo or whatever search engine you use. That's easy knowledge. So we all know what's going on with the world right now, and I'm talking now, especially with shortages and inflation. So with that said, we're going to have to start thinking about outside the box, outside the grocery store, you know. So, what happens if there comes a day that we can't go to the grocery store? And, I'm not just talking one day and we postpone it to the next day or even the weekend or even the following week. I'm talking about a long period of time. Most of us have, probably already been prepping. And I know everyone's goal, or most everyone's goal, is usually to have enough food to put away for 1 year per person in your house. But then what? Then after a year, then what happens? Like if we do go into this war that, is touch and go right now, anyone who's taken any kind of a history course knows that war lasts longer than 1 year. So what happens after the year? You prepped all this food for a year and then what? You and your family go hungry? No. That's not an acceptable answer. God has provided everything that you need to live right in front of you. However, you do need to help yourself. And that also means, you need to educate yourself. And you're doing that right now by listening to me. And, if you're part of our co op group, or even just continuing to listening to not only me, but anybody on YouTube, anybody with any kind of information, you'll continue to educate yourself. So, back to the food. If you can't get the food from the store, where do you get it? Well, the first, answer that always comes right to mind is, hello, I'm just going to go grow a garden. So, and not just, maybe not just a little garden, like I'm talking like a big garden, and I do plan to do this. In fact, I plan on growing as many plants as I possibly can. I plan on, planting in the ground, planting in raised beds, growing vertically, growing in I have a high tunnel, but you can do with like a greenhouse too, growing in containers. And I even said it before and I'll say it again. I'm going to grow in an old boot if that's, all I got left to grow in. And while we're on this, I just want to mention that you should be growing things that your family will eat. However, it doesn't mean that you can't grow something and barter with it. For example, my husband doesn't really care much for eggplant, and I don't like it either. Um, in fact, actually, my husband won't eat it at all. I'll eat it if it's like mixed in with something, but I don't want it to be my main dish. So I may grow a plant or two of eggplant, and hopefully this year my kids will eat it too. So, it's not, you know, and if not, that's fine because I have it to barter with. There's other people that love eggplant parmesan or something like that. So, anyways, but focus on the stuff that you guys like to grow. We love cucumbers. We love to make pickles. We love eating them raw. So we definitely like to grow an abundance of cucumbers. So don't forget to with the garden. Um, you definitely, if you can't go to the store, you can't, you know, buy seeds from the store or even from a seed catalog. So you're going to need to save your seeds too. And I know next month in our co op, one of the girls is doing that. So perfect. Come back and learn how to do that. And in this YouTube channel, I'll probably cover some of that later on in fall as well. Um, so, again, you have this garden, you plan on growing all this food, but let's say you didn't have a good year for gardening or you're new at growing certain things. I know every year I grow things I've never grown before, and sometimes it doesn't produce, and it doesn't matter if you're a professional or a rookie, or a green thumb or black thumb. It doesn't matter. We all have stuff that doesn't produce. It could produce for us really well one year and not really the next. So you can't put all your, eggs in one basket. You can't put all your food into the garden. So then what do you do? Obviously you can, hope that somebody else next to you, one of your neighbors, had a good year with whatever you didn't have a good year with, and maybe you can trade. But what else can you do in addition to the garden? Well, first, you can look around your house. I'm sure you grow houseplants, and most people do. So if you're like me, you want everything to have a multi purpose, and that includes plants too. They not only help clean the air in my house and obviously look pretty, but they're also edible and very nutritious. Um, for example, I grow spider plants in my house. They're very easy to grow and everything. Did you know that you can eat them? Sure, cut off some leaves and throw it in a raw salad or cook it up in a soup. Spider plants are high in beta carotene, folic acid, vitamin C, and even calcium. And they're also a good source of vitamin E, iron, and lactic acid. So plant some spider plants if you don't already. Some other plants that you may grow in your house, you may think they're for medicinal purposes, and they are, but you can probably eat them as well too, like aloe vera, for example. So don't just scrape off the jelly for creams or putting it on a burn, but toss it in as part of a smoothie. So there's a whole bunch of things here too that I've listed. Again, it would be impossible for me to list everything, so this is just a start. So please extend on my research. So, okay, so that's our house. So now let's, step outside our front door and look at our backyard or even the start of the backwoods. There is so much there that can be eaten, and you don't even have to venture out miles and miles into the woods. Many of the weeds right in your own lawn can be eaten, and I'm sure most of you know this. But my favorite is dandelions because you can eat the whole plant and you can turn it into so many things. And again, I'm not just talking medicinal uses, I'm talking you can make it into jelly, wine, salad. You can toss it in with breads and cookies and so much more. There's so many things that you can make with it. And I know every year I try to do something new with that too. So, and again, on your list, there's more here, and there's plenty more. So research away. And so while I'm talking about outside, let's not forget about our animal proteins. So we can hunt, of course. And again, right in our backyard, I'm sure there's squirrel. You can hunt squirrel, and they're pretty nutritious and tasty too. I know my dad one time made me some squirrel in a crock pot with he put some barbecue sauce, and I don't know what else he did, but it was delicious. And, also some of you may have bobcats as a threat to your chickens or other livestock or maybe even your pets. You can shoot them and cook them up. They do have nutrition in them too. If you want to venture out into the woods, or hopefully not, but maybe some of these animals come right into your backyard too, like a bear or a moose or deer, all these things can, be eaten. So don't waste any of the animal. Use it up. Think of like the Native Americans. They didn't waste a thing. And as I mentioned, threats to your livestock. Again, don't forget your livestock, which is probably in your backyard too. You can raise animals for meat, eggs, milk, all kinds of stuff. And again, they should be dual purpose. So chickens are probably one of the most common things to raise, but check out the fun fact on this paper about rabbits. It says rabbits are one of the most productive domestic livestock animals there is. They can produce 6 pounds of meat on the same feed and water as a cow will produce, and 1 pound of meat on the same feed and water. Wow. So not only do they need less, but they are also very digestible, and it's a lean protein. And again, waste not. So you can not only eat them, but you can use their poop as fertilizer for your garden. And remember, if you can't get to the store, you're not buying any fertilizer either. So this is a great fertilizer. It's the only poop that I can think of that's not hot, and you can throw it right onto your garden, not like, chickens where you have to compost it for like at least a year. And also, not only fertilizer, but you can tan their hides and make blankets and clothings and, all kinds of things to keep your family warm. So again, think of livestock and think of multi-purposes for them. So, all right. So now we have some starting points of, you know, where to get your nutrition if, you can't get it from the store. Um, and again, like I said, this only covers a brief little touch of everything because there is no way I could possibly cover it all. So, research, research, research. So, okay. So, what happens when you can't go to the store? Like, not everything can be harvested year round, like the tree bark, for example. You can hunt round, but I mean, if it's a bigger animal or even those squirrels, when my dad was making the squirrel barbecue crock pot thing for me, I know it wasn't like he went out one day and shot a whole bunch of squirrel. Like he would shoot a squirrel or so and, process it, put it in the freezer, and he waited until he had a whole bunch. So you'll need to preserve what you harvest or, you can't eat it all at once. And come winter, there is not a whole lot that you can go out and harvest. So you'll be very limited on what you and your family are eating. So there are various short-term and long-term preservation methods, and each method has its pros and cons, and nutrition is no exception to those various pros and cons. This doesn't mean that we don't use certain methods. We should still be preserving away. We should still all be squirreling away for whatever, by whatever means possible. It just means that we should be conscious of what that does nutritionally to our foods, especially if we're eating it for a certain nutritional purpose. For example, If I open a 10-year jar of oranges, if stored properly, I can still eat it, of course, but I won't be getting its full nutritional value. It'll fill my belly, but if I need to eat it because I really need that vitamin C, maybe to help boost my immune system or something, then I better make another choice because the vitamin C has been very much depleted over the years. So, in addition to the vitamin C contents that was already lost in the canning process. So, again, I'm losing it because of how it was processed, and then I'm losing it because it was stored for a long time. So, I'm going to cover some preservation methods and how they affect the nutritional value of the food. Now, ideally, I say it's best to eat fresh, unprocessed foods whenever possible. So, for example, like a whole apple with its skin on versus applesauce. But I have to say that fermenting your food actually increases the nutritional value of the food and reduces the carbohydrates, which also helps with digestion problems, and it reduces flatulence. During the fermenting process, microorganisms generate various nutrients like vitamin C, B vitamins, and vitamin K. So the bioavailability, which is what makes the nutrients in the vegetables more available, of iron and zinc, are especially more likely to be absorbed with fermented foods. Most common way to store food is the refrigerator or cold storage and freezing. So after storing food in the refrigerator for about 1 to 2 weeks, produce will lose about a half or more of its vitamins. But when freezing, most of the vitamins and minerals will be retained. So, if not more, because it preserves those nutrients that would otherwise be lost if it was stored out in the open. And of course, the macronutrients stay the same as in many ways of storing. The macros pretty much always they do all stay the same. So, two other popular ways of storing our harvest is either canning or dehydrating. And this goes for, you know, either produce or meat too. So, the heat from the canning unfortunately destroys a third to a half of vitamins A and C, thiamine, and riboflavin. While other vitamins and minerals stay close to fresh levels after about a year of being about a year, it will lose 5 to 20% of vitamins and minerals. But the macronutrients, again, your protein, fats, and carbs, will always stay the same. In dehydration, most vitamins and minerals will stay the same except for vitamin A, C, and although B vitamins and minerals can also decrease slightly, if you blanch them first, it will reduce the loss of thiamine and vitamin A and vitamin C. So blanch them first and then dehydrate them if you can. A less common way of preserving your food, probably because it's so expensive and it uses a bit of electricity too, is freeze drying. It's, too bad that this method um, is kind of out of reach for a lot of us because it only loses a very minuscule amount. Like I'm talking 3% is lost. And it can also increase the antioxidants and fiber. Lastly, there's pasteurization. I'm not really sure how many of us can do this at home, but nonetheless, I figured I'd mention it. This method causes 50% of vitamin C to be lost. It also destroys the enzymes and carrier proteins needed to absorb calcium. So, hey, think way back to grade school and how you were taught that you needed to drink cow milk, for the calcium. And then, think about that and you'll share a smidgen of my frustration from, you know, one of the things that I learned in the food politics course in college. So, um, it also, prohibits the you absorbing folate, vitamin B12, vitamin B6, vitamin A, vitamin D, iron, and many other minerals. So, and that's just pasteurized. Think about ultra pasteurized. you get nothing in that. So raw is definitely better. So now after you store it, you're eventually going to eat it. So most minerals except for potassium, which can leach out in cooking water, um, are sensitive to heat from cooking. However, most vitamins are water soluble, especially vitamins like B and C. Any fat soluble vitamins, A, D, and E, but not K, are also leached out in cooking oils. So let me just rephrase that. So, any of the your water soluble vitamins will leach out in cooking water, and any of your fat soluble vitamins, with the exception of K, will leach out in cooking oils. So, when you're cooking, it's best to cook foods using the method that uses small amounts of water or fat. So, that's another reason why french fries are not as healthy as mashed potatoes. Also, when possible, it's cooked in a soup and you're eating that too, you'll get back all those water soluble vitamins because you're eating that water that's in the soup. And also, don't overcook your food. No mushy veggies. That's so gross, and it loses a lot of your vitamins too. So, other than that, honestly, I wouldn't worry so much about nutrients being lost in cooking. Again, as long as you're not overcooking your food. So, I hope this helps in you thinking more about different ways you can nourish yourself and your family. I really wish I could cover more, but this is a huge, huge area. So, I've only given you guys a little bit to go from. So, definitely take this, take any of the handouts, and expand on it. Do more research and take more classes. I know I've been doing free webinars. Just learn, learn, learn as much as you can and learn it now. Also, a good tip is don't rely on putting everything in audio. So I know, like, you're listening to this on YouTube. If there's anything really important that you learn, make sure you write it down. And other things too, if they're really important that you find on, I don't know, Pinterest or any website or anything like that, print it out. And if it's that good, laminate it so that it won't be destroyed or it'll be harder to destroy. So you'll always have it because who knows how long we'll have internet for or electricity for. If you're in Maine, look at your electric bill, your CMP bill, because that has skyrocketed. How much more of that can we afford? I, there may come a time where we're not going to be able to afford electricity, or if something should happen, everybody may not have it, no matter how much you have. So research, research, and do it all now before it's too late. All right, I don't want to leave on such a sad note. Um, so I hope to hear how everyone's doing with their garden this year. And if there's any like produce swaps, I think that's such a cool idea. Um, I would really like to do one of those. So leave me a comment and let me know what you're doing for your garden this year, or if you're planning on taking any foraging lessons so that you can really go out there and, go in your backyard and your woods and stuff and find all the edible mushrooms and, plants and everything like that that you can, put back into your pantry. That would be really fun and interesting to hear. So leave a comment below and I will see you all next time. Thanks so much, guys. Take care.
Say bye
Bye bye.
bye. Bye.